It happens at 2 a.m. You wake up with feet so cold they feel entirely disconnected from your legs. A heavy, dead numbness. A sharp, stinging prickle right at the tips of your toes. You pull the heavy wool blanket over them, assuming the room is just cold. But the cold is not coming from the outside. It is radiating from the inside out. What you are experiencing at this exact second is not a weather issue. It is a biological crime scene. You are feeling the exact moment your microvascular capillaries begin to suffocate. These capillaries are incredibly fragile. They are barely the width of a single human hair. Right now, as you lie there trying to sleep, they are being physically choked off by a thick, sticky sludge, a type of biological asphalt. Medical science calls this localized ischemia, the early stages of peripheral neuropathy. The blood simply cannot reach your extremities. But there is a specific biological override, a precise chemical reaction you can trigger before you close your eyes. By combining the active gingerols from raw ginger root with the sheer thermal force of capsaicin from cayenne pepper, you can force a systemic vasodilation event, a microscopic explosion that blasts open these suffocating vessels while you sleep. We need to dissect exactly how this works. Let us look at the primary villain, the late dinner you ate hours ago. As we cross the age of 50, the pancreas becomes sluggish. Its ability to pump out precise amounts of insulin degrades. You eat a meal heavy in carbohydrates. The digestive system breaks it down into free-floating glucose. But because the insulin response is weak, that sugar is not pushed into your muscle cells for energy. It gets trapped inside the blood plasma. Now, blood plasma is mostly water. When you dump excessive unburnt sugar into it, the viscosity changes. It becomes thick and syrupy, but the real destruction begins through a mechanical process called glycation. This is not some abstract concept. Glycation is a brutal physical reaction. The free sugar molecules begin to crystallize. They bond aggressively with proteins and lipids, mutating into what endocrinologists call advanced glycation end products. We call them AGEs. Think of AGEs as microscopic shards of broken glass. As your heart pumps this syrupy, sugar-loaded blood down into your legs, these jagged AGEs scrape violently against the delicate endothelium. That is the ultra-thin inner lining of your blood vessels. Every pulse of your heart drives these glass-like structures deeper into the capillary walls. They tear the tissue. They trigger massive localized inflammation. Eventually, the damage becomes so severe that the capillary walls calcify. They turn rigid. They lock shut. The pathway's dead. The blood flow stops. And that is exactly why your toes feel like ice. The nerves in your feet are screaming for oxygen and nutrients, but the supply lines have been cemented shut. You might think your current routine is fixing this. Millions of people swallow a shot of apple cider vinegar or sip green tea before bed, expecting a miracle. Let us be brutally objective here. Acetic acid in vinegar and EGCG in green tea are fantastic for inhibiting carbohydrate digestive enzymes inside the stomach. They slow down the initial spike, but they are completely and utterly useless once those AGEs are already wedged into your peripheral capillaries. Vinegar cannot dissolve calcified biological glass in your toes. Dieting alone cannot undo structural vascular damage. You can starve yourself of carbs for a month, but if the microscopic pipes in your feet are already rigid and blocked, the numbness will persist. The continuous accumulation of these localized blockages leads to something far more terrifying. Nerve death. Without continuous blood flow, the protective myelin sheath surrounding your peripheral nerves begins to physically rot away. Once that myelin is gone, the nerve dies. This is an irreversible threshold. No amount of walking, heating pads, or massage will bring a dead nerve back to life. We must bypass the stomach's digestion rate and directly manipulate the vascular mechanics. We need to physically pry open the rigid capillaries from the inside. This brings us to the first stage of our biological override protocol. The gingerol compound. The gingerol compound. But before we deploy this compound, you must observe the exact timeline of the tissue death currently unfolding under your skin. Medical literature refers to this process as Wallerian degeneration. When a capillary is fully choked by crystallized sugar, the nerve fiber it sustains is abruptly starved of oxygen. Within a mere 48 hours of this severe ischemia, the internal structure of the axon begins to physically fragment and collapse. The electrical signals misfire violently. This misfiring is the sharp, stinging, burning sensation you feel at night. It is not an annoyance, it is the physiological sound of your nerves short-circuiting as they suffocate. If this localized blood flow is not restored rapidly, your immune system dispatches macrophages. These are scavenger cells designed to clean up debris. The macrophages arrive at the site and begin physically eating the dying nerve tissue. Once they consume the nerve, the connection is severed forever. You will permanently lose the ability to feel the floor beneath your feet. You will step on a piece of glass, feel absolutely nothing, develop a silent ulcer, and invite gangrene. This is the quiet, highly predictable path to surgical amputation. We must intervene before the macrophages arrive. Gingerol is the primary bioactive agent found in raw ginger root. It does not mask pain. It physically interacts with the smooth muscle tissue wrapped around your microscopic capillaries. When a high concentration of gingerol enters your blood plasma, it acts as a potent vasodilator. It forces these constricted, panicked muscle fibers to physically relax. The rigid walls of the vessel are forced to widen, but widening the pipe is only the first step of the override. You still have a dense traffic jam of calcified sugar blocking the route. A wider pipe with a solid plug inside it still yields zero circulation. We must introduce hydrostatic pressure. We need a biological battering ram. Enter capsaicin. Capsaicin is the fierce, volatile compound responsible for the heat in cayenne pepper. When capsaicin hits your circulation, it does not just warm you up. It aggressively ramps up peripheral hemodynamics. It creates a sudden, localized pressure spike within the vascular system. Imagine a high-powered industrial pressure washer suddenly activating inside a clogged residential drain. The gingerol widened the vessel, and now the capsaicin forces a high-speed rush of blood through that newly opened gap. The sheer kinetic force of this pressurized blood begins to physically peel the crystallized edges off your delicate endothelium. It blasts the microscopic sugar glass out of the surrounding tissue, forcing it back into the main venous return where the kidneys can filter it out. However, many patients fall into a dangerous trap here. They ask, I eat a strictly low-carb dinner at 6 p.m. I fast until morning. Why are my feet still freezing at 2 a.m.? And why is my fasting glucose spiked at dawn? We must expose the hidden nocturnal saboteur, your liver. While you sleep, if your body perceives internal metabolic stress from the cellular starvation happening in your feet, your adrenal glands panic. They dump the stress hormone cortisol into your system. Cortisol is an emergency biological alarm bell. It commands your liver to immediately dump its emergency reserves of stored glycogen directly into your bloodstream to fight a threat that does not actually exist. Consequently, even though your stomach is completely empty, your blood is suddenly saturated with fresh, thick glucose at 3 a.m. The vicious glycation cycle restarts in the dark. The sugar glass reforms. This is where the capsaicin from the cayenne pepper proves its absolute dominance over synthetic medications. It directly intercepts this liver malfunction. Clinical pharmacology demonstrates that capsaicin forces the upregulation of GLP-1 in the gut. GLP-1 is a highly specific hormone that actively suppresses the liver's rogue, nighttime sugar production. Therefore, as the capsaicin blasts through your blocked veins, violently pushing the gingerol deep into your dying extremities, it is simultaneously placing a chemical lockdown on your liver. It stops the new sugar from entering the bloodstream. It cuts off the enemy's supply line. But we now face a secondary critical crisis at the microscopic level. The inner lining of your blood vessels, the endothelium, has just been subjected to violent trauma. The capsaicin successfully blasted the edges away, but in doing so, the vessel walls are left torn, raw, and bleeding on a cellular level. The endothelial glycocalyx, the microscopic hair-like protective layer inside the vein, has been shredded. If you leave the veins in this raw state, your body will deploy cholesterol to quickly patch the microscopic holes, instantly creating a brand new, highly dangerous arterial plaque blockage. We must seal and heal this tissue instantly. This is the exact biological purpose of the third catalyst. Fresh lemon juice. We are not using lemon for flavor. We are deploying it as a highly concentrated, bioavailable payload of vitamin C and citric acid. Vitamin C is the fundamental, non-negotiable building block of human collagen. The exact second the capsaicin blasts the sugar plaque away, the massive influx of vitamin C binds directly to the torn endothelium. It rapidly stitches the microscopic wounds shut and forcefully regenerates the endothelial glycocalyx. It restores the elastic, rubber-like integrity of the capillary wall, ensuring it will not collapse again. But the citric acid from the lemon performs one final, crucial biological sweep. It acts as an alkalizing agent once metabolized inside the bloodstream. When your blood plasma becomes highly acidic from prolonged high glucose levels, red blood cells tend to clump together. They stack up like coins in a roll, a phenomenon known in hematology as the rouleau formation. This clumping makes it physically impossible for the blood to squeeze through the newly opened microcapillaries in your feet, even after the capsaicin has cleared the edges. The citric acid shatters these rouleau formations. It separates the red blood cells, ensuring they flow as single, oxygen-rich units, delivering maximum life support directly to the starving nerve endings. We have the widening agent, we have the pressure mechanism, we have the tissue sealant and the blood thinner. Now we must formulate the exact physiological override command. You cannot simply throw these ingredients together randomly. The ratio is the absolute difference between reversing ischemia and burning your stomach lining. Here is the precise, non-negotiable protocol. You need exactly half a thumb-sized piece of fresh, raw ginger root. Do not use powdered ginger. The volatile gingerols evaporate during the commercial drying process. Crush it thoroughly to rupture the cell walls and release the active oils. Place the crushed ginger into a cup. Next, add exactly 1/8 of a teaspoon of pure, unadulterated cayenne pepper. Do not exceed this measurement. We are aiming for a controlled microdilation, not systemic distress. Finally, squeeze the fresh juice of exactly half a lemon over the mixture. Pour 200 milliliters of warm, not boiling water over these active compounds. Boiling water will instantly denature the vitamin C. You must drink this exact formulation precisely 30 minutes before you lie flat in bed. Why 30 minutes? Gravity. As you are still upright, the hydrostatic pressure of your cardiovascular system assists the capsaicin in pushing the gingerol-loaded blood down into the lower extremities. By the time you lie down, the compounds have already bypassed the liver and entered the peripheral plasma. Do not expect a miracle on night one. You are fighting decades of biological calcification. But if you execute this protocol strictly, here is the exact physiological sequence you will experience. Around the 72-hour mark, the dead, heavy sensation in your legs will begin to shift. You will notice a faint, almost imperceptible vibration deep within your calves. This is not a muscle spasm. It is the mechanical sensation of dormant microvessels finally expanding. By day 7, the agonizing nighttime prickling will dull, and by day 14, a distinct biological warmth will begin to pool at the bottom of your heels. That warmth is fresh, oxygenated blood re-entering tissue that was weeks away from necrosis. However, I must deliver a harsh, uncompromising truth. This biochemical intervention is a rescue operation, not a license to abuse your pancreas. If you continue to gorge on heavy, highly processed carbohydrates at 8 p.m., you are simply laying down new asphalt over the very pipes we are trying to clear. You are forcing your liver to fight a war it cannot win. You must cut the late-night carbohydrate supply line. Let your digestive system power down so the ginger, capsaicin, and lemon can execute the repair without interference. The medical establishment will happily prescribe you synthetic gabapentin to mask the screaming of your dying nerves, while your feet slowly turn cold and black. You have the mechanical knowledge to pry those vessels open tonight. The choice of which path to take is sitting on your kitchen counter. Before you leave, I need to track the efficacy of this protocol. Subscribe to the channel, then go down into the comments and log your exact morning fasting blood glucose number, along with the current state of your feet. We will monitor the vascular changes together over the next 30 days. I will see you in the next clinical breakdown.